Planning is deciding in advance the future course of action. What we are going to do tomorrow, that we are going to plan today itself. Before executing, we are going to think something. It is a function of thinking. If we plan properly and if we execute the same plan properly, so there is no possibility of losses, there is no possibility of failure. By managing the activity, we are supposed to reach the goals of the organization. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I am Mr. Hemant Kumar from the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Aid College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. So, this is the session 1 of Unit 2 of the subject Principles and Practice of Management. The name of the unit is Planning and Decision Making. This is agenda of today's session. We are going through the meaning and definition of planning, features, objectives and the importance of planning. Meaning of planning. So what do you mean by planning? Planning is deciding in advance the future course of action. What we are going to do tomorrow, that we are going to plan today itself. Planning is deciding in advance. So as we know, planning is deciding in advance the future course of action. What we are going to do tomorrow, that we are going to decide today. So here it is going to give the idea what to do, how to do and who have to do. So if any function is to be performed in the organization, it is going to give the guidelines regarding what have to be performed, how have to be performed and who have to perform that particular task or the activity that is given by the organization. It is going to give the guidelines. It is one of the basic managerial functions. So as we know, there are 5 managerial functions. So planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. Among 5 managerial functions, this is the first and the most important function, that is planning. Before doing something, the manager must formulate an idea of how the work of an particular task. So the manager is going to make a idea regarding the future course of action. He is going to predict the future course of action and he is going to make the idea, that is planning. Thus the planning is closely connected with the creativity. The planning is connected with the creativity. Due to the creativity, we can plan for the future course of action and innovation. So there must be creativity and also there must be innovation to apply for the different situations. But the manager would first have to set the objectives. So before execution of any kind of plan, the objectives must be fixed. Without the objectives, without the goals, there is no existence of a plan. If there is existence of the plan, there must be some goals or the objectives to the organization. Only then will the manager know where he had to be go. So only then the manager come to know where he have to go and what he have to perform and how can he reach the goals of the organization. Planning seeks to bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be. The planning is going to build the gap between the where we are today and where we are supposed to go tomorrow. The planning is going to predict the future. Features of planning. Why the planning is an intellectual process? It is an intellectual process because it is the course of thinking rather than doing. Because we think before doing something. Before executing, we are going to think something. It is a function of thinking. The next step is planning is goal-oriented. As we know, the planning is a goal-oriented process. So each and every organization have its own goal. So by managing the activity, we are supposed to reach the goals of the organization. Planning is pervasive. So what do you mean by pervasive? So planning is also everywhere, whether in the profit organization, whether in the non-profit organization, any kind of the business organization, the planning will be there. Hence we can say that the planning is a pervasive. Planning is primary function of management. So as we know, there are 5 functions of management, that is planning, organizing, directing, staffing controlling. Okay, these are the 5 functions of management. So the first function or the primary function of the management is planning. So without planning, we could not able to execute the rest of the functions of the management. It may be organizing, directing, staffing, or controlling. Whatever the things that the management is going to do, it must start from the planning, and after the planning only we are supposed to go with the organizing, directing, staffing, and controlling. And hence we can say that planning is a primary function of the management. Planning involve decision making. So this planning itself a decision making process. How the planning can be decision making process? Because before selecting a particular plan, it is going to evaluate the alternative course of action. Only after the evaluation of the alternative course of action, it is going to decide the final thing. So hence we can say that it is a planning involves the decision making process. It is a decision making function of the management. Planning is continuous process. Why the planning is continuous process? There is a continuity in the plan. What happens if a single plan come to end? We are going with the next plan. So after end of that plan, we are going with the another plan. Hence there is a continuity with the plan. In the management also the same thing is going to happen. So after planning, we are going with the organizing, directing, staffing, controlling. After controlling, we are going to execute the plan, and after that we are going with the new plan, followed by planning, organizing, directing, staffing, and controlling. It keep on repeating again and again. Hence we can say that planning is a continuous process. Planning is futuristic. What do you mean by futuristic? So it is going to predict the future, whatever the things that may happen in the future, that we are going to decide in advance. Whatever the things that we are supposed to do in future, that we are going to decide today itself. Hence we can say that the planning is futuristic. The planning is the forward-looking function based on the forecasting. So we call it as a futuristic. Objectives of planning. Accomplishment of the organizational goal. As we know, there are different objectives of the organization. One objective is not similar to the another objective. Hence, we can say that this planning is very helpful to reach the objectives of the organization. Fulfillment of the organizational commitment. So there are number of commitments of the organization. Different kinds of department have different kinds of commitment towards reaching the goal of the organization. How they are going to reach the goal of the organization? Only through the process of planning we can reach out the goals of the organization. Hence we can say that fulfillment of the organizational commitment is the objective of planning. Next one, it facilitates decision making. As we know, the planning is the decision-making function of the management. Hence, it is going to evaluate the alternative course of action. By comparing one another, it comes to the ultimate solution. Hence, we can say that it facilitates decision-making. Planning provides stability to the organization. How the planning can bring the stability to the organization? If we go through the proper planning or the proper procedure of planning, there is no risk of uncertainty to the organization. So if we keep on executing each and every step, each and every plan in a systematic way, so there is no risk of uncertainties. Hence, if we plan properly and if we execute the same plan properly, so there is no possibility of losses, there is no possibility of failure. So if there is no possibility of failure means it lead for the success of the organization. That success of the organization lead for the stability of the organization, and hence we can say that planning is going to build the stability of the organization. Development of manager. How the development of manager can be happen through planning? So as we know, the managers are the one who are going to make the plan and execute the plan in the effective and the efficient way. So they do have experience of planning and executing. So once they had prepared the plan and executed, twice also they had prepared the same plan and they had executed, thrice in the third time what happens? So he get expertised in that particular field or the particular level. Hence, the manager get expertised by executing the same plan again and again, and hence we can say that there will be a development in the skills and knowledge of the manager, and hence he is capable of handling all the situation and taking all the challenges for the future. Planning promotes innovation. So there will be a red carpet welcome for the people who have the innovative ideas in the organization, and hence this planning is going to promote the innovation. So the planning itself is a innovation because we are going to predict the future course of action. The next step is reduction of risk. So what do you mean by risk? Risk is nothing but the possibility of losses. It is the uncertainties that may happen in the future. The planning is going to reduce the risk of uncertainties. So if we go through plan, any activity can be accomplished with the plan effectively and efficiently and also successfully. If we go to execute the task without plan, there is more risk of uncertainties. There is possibility of losses and also possibility of failure. So hence we can say that if we go through any kind of a plan, there is no or there will be a reduction of risk of uncertainties. Importance of planning. Planning provides direction. So how the planning is going to provide the direction? By setting the well-defined goals of the organization. Planning leads to work in a single direction. So this planning is a process that leads the subordinates to work in a single direction, not in the different direction. What happens if all the subordinates work together in the single vision or the single direction? We can accomplish the objectives of the organization earlier, and hence we can save the cost. Planning reduces the risk of uncertainty. If we perform any activity without plan, there is the possibility of failure. So if we go through the plan, there is more possibility of winning the situation. So hence we can say that it reduces the risk of uncertainty. If we go through the proper plan, there is no risk of uncertainty or there is less risk of uncertainty only if we go through the planning. Planning reduces overlapping and wasteful activities. So how the planning is going to reduce the overlapping? So in the organization, if we go through the proper plan, there is no overlapping of the human and the financial resources, or there is no possibility of losses, we can say. So wasteful activities. So if we perform any activity without plan, so it is just a waste of time and money. If we go through the process or if we go through the proper plan, so there is a possibility of success, and hence we can say that planning is going to reduce the overlapping and wasteful activities. By reducing the cost of manufacturing, it is a indirect way of saving. If we plan each and every activity properly, we can save the cost and we can save the money. Planning promote innovative ideas. As we had studied, planning is the intellectual property which give the innovative ideas. From the planning, we get the different kind of the innovative ideas to execute at the different situation for the different task. Planning facilitate decision making. It is a decision making function of the management. Why this planning is facilitating the decision making? We had studied in the features, we had studied in the objectives, and we are going to study in the importance also, that is planning is decision making, because it is going to evaluate the alternative course of action and it is going to make the final decision. Planning establishes the standard for controlling. So how the planning is going to establish the standard for controlling? In the controlling process, by comparing the actual performance with the standard performance, we come to know the actual in which place that we are in and which place that we are supposed to reach. In next session, we are going through the concept of process of planning and also the types of plans. Thank you.